You want to play a game? Oh, we're certainly going to play one. And that game is coming this Sunday, titled Bears Football. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Chicago Bears are marching into town, ladies and gentlemen, to play my San Francisco 49ers in a game it's a game titled Bears Football. And yeah, it's a game that's going to be had. The Bears, they were a story that was a tale as old as time early in the season. The rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick. And then, yeah, you had their head coach, Matt Eberfluss. But nonetheless, they were a story early on in the season, 4-2, and Caleb was coming into his own, and you had an offense that was picking up a little bit of steam, and you thought they're going to be in the mix for the NFC North in that very competitive division, but unfortunately, no, it's not going so well for them right now. They're currently sitting at 4-8, well out of the playoff picture, and yeah, certainly things are not going well for them as they enter this Week 14 matchup, desperately trying to salvage their season. And, well, if they're even thinking about playoffs at this point, but certainly they should not be because, well, actually, we'll get into that when we get into the week that was for both of these teams. Meanwhile, for my San Francisco 49ers, well, they'll be certainly playing some red and gold Bears football because, well, yeah, as I alluded to in the last 2 weeks, their season is basically done at this point. Sure, all of you delusional Niners fans out there, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but I'm just laying on the basic truth here. I mean, when you look at it, the schedule the rest of the way, yes, the division is pretty crappy, that being the NFC West, but this team's too beat up. This too, well, physically, mentally, emotionally, you name it. It's just like you have to be realistic with yourself. I'm being realistic here. And I mean, that's what we do here on Very Cold Lasagna. We can have a little delusion here and there, but we have to be realistic. This team that failed to finish the story in February, it's coming back to haunt them here and now. And that's what they are. Sitting at 5-7, they're dead last in the NFC West. Almost everyone, is failing to live up to expectation, and you got a lot of serious questions about the quarterback position now, apparently. And almost everyone is turning against the quarterback that brought them to the promised land just 10 months ago in Brock Purdy. So, yeah, you're at an interesting proposition in the final month of the regular season. So, when you look at this game for the 49ers, yeah, you have some questions that need to be answered going into this game. And well, the questions for the start of this month. Like, if you lose this game, which I certainly think you should. I mean, like, not like purposely, but you know. Anyway, you have to think to yourselves, like, do you start shutting guys down, like the main starters? You start thinking about not like purposely losing them all, even though you should lose them all. But you have to think to yourselves, like, at what realistic point do you think it's a wise idea to play all these guys? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, the Niners are an interesting proposition right now at their standing. And you have to think, the Niners fans and the Niners themselves have to think, is it worth chasing a division title at a 4 seed or a 3 seed and get one and done in the playoffs, especially with how they are right now from, like I said, a physical, mental, and emotional standpoint right now? I don't know. But they'll figure it out this Sunday when it all begins with the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams coming to town. So, quickly looking at the week that was for both of these teams. For the Bears, going back to, that proposition with Matt Eberfluss. Well, he basically cost the Bears this game, that Thanksgiving game against the Detroit Lions. The Bears they came back from a 23-7 deficit in the fourth quarter, and they were on the verge of sending that Thanksgiving game into overtime in Detroit. But Matt Eberflussed that chance because, well, they had 20 seconds to work with and a timeout in their pocket, yet neither he and to a degree, Caleb Williams, they didn't use it. But Matt Eberflus is the head coach. He should know in these situations that you have to use the timeout. You have to call your last timeout, regardless of the situation. And I get it. You're still not quite in. You weren't quite in field goal range, but you have to call the timeout with that little time left. Like, you got to use it. Like, it was such a stupid situation. So that mismanagement of the clock was the final straw. It was the long-awaited last straw for the Bears to Matt Eberflus out of Chicago. He got fired the next day. And yeah, the interim head coach, Thomas Brown, this will be his first audition at the shot of the permanent head coaching position as the Bears begin their head coach search process. Meanwhile, for my San Francisco 49ers, we all knew what was expected for their Week 13 matchup in Buffalo. In the bright lights of Sunday night, in that winter blizzard, well, they got their ass handed, as expected. Even though Brock Purdy came back in the starting lineup, he couldn't handle the adverse snow conditions, especially when he couldn't grip the ball. So, yeah, we all knew this was going to happen with the snow, with the likes of Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Aaron Banks out. But, yeah, we all knew they were going to get smashed, stacked, and packed out of Buffalo by Josh Allen and the Bills. But still, almost everyone in that game played with even less heart than they did the week before against the Packers. And they had Brandon Allen starting at quarterback. And we all knew they were going to get stacked in that game. But, man, the Bills really iced their hearts out in that game. They iced their spirits out of that game. So, I can only imagine what Caleb Williams and the Bears could do at home this Sunday. So, looking at the injury report for both of these teams, the Bears, they could be without their top receiver, DJ Moore, and running back DeAndre Swift for this game as they're dealing with quad injuries, but be mindful of the final injury report on Friday. You could be without running back Roschon Johnson and offensive lineman Ryan Bates because they still got a clear concussion protocol. So, yeah, just be aware of the injury report this coming Friday. See who's in and out. If they don't have Roschon Johnson or DeAndre Swift, then that running game is going to be significantly impacted because that is key for Caleb Williams to set up the passing attack. And if they don't have either or neither, then the Bears are going to be basically a passing-only offense. Meanwhile, for my San Francisco 49ers, there were two key moves that they made earlier this week, and that relates to our own rushing attack. Christian McCaffrey, his season is basically done. As you saw in the Bills game, he had this very bad move on his leg. He suffered a season-ending PCL sprain, although it doesn't require surgery, which is good. But basically, it was enough to put him on injured reserve for 6 weeks, which is basically the end of the season for him, which sucks. But it felt like for the whole season he wasn't healthy, so it's just very unfortunate. And then you also lose Jordan Mason for also basically the rest of the season with a high ankle sprain, even though it's only 4 weeks. But at this point, it's like, what's the point? Just like with Dre Greenlaw, he's still practicing in a limited capacity, but again, what's the point of bringing him back at this point? And Talanoa Hufanga is back at practice, although he's sporting a big hand club for his wrist, and he recently had his IR practice window open. Again, what's the point of bringing him back? Unless you want to see him play, I suppose, for a future contract. You could also be, for the 49ers, they could also be without Nick Bosa again, Trent Williams again, Aaron Banks again, because they haven't practiced yet. But again, be aware of the injury report that comes out on Friday. But if you want some positive injury news, Deommodore Lenoir is expected back after missing last week's game with that knee issue that kept him out of the Buffalo game. So, yeah, like I said, this is a beat-up 49ers team right now, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually right now. So looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, looking at the Bears, you got to take advantage of this piss-poor 49ers offensive line. The O-line is likely, again, not expected to have Trent Williams. Oh, I forgot to mention this. He's dealing with a very personal matter right now. I wish him all the best. Prayers up for him and his wife. So very unfortunate situation what's going on right now. But when it pertains to the keys to victory for the Bears, that O-line's not expected to have Trent again, and possibly Aaron Banks too. So that O-line is going to be significantly weak. And this Montez Sweat-led front four, they got to take advantage of it. And offensively, Caleb Williams. Like, this is a chance for you to really shine in this game. Even if it's a 49ers team, both like beat up on all fronts, and even if they have Charvarius Ward and Diamador Lenore back, this is a game that Caleb Williams can really put a clinic on. He was on the verge of leading the Bears to an upset on Thanksgiving over the Lions. He almost came back in that game until freaking Matt Eberflus flushed that game away. Well, he has a chance to redeem himself with even a better performance against the 49ers on the road. Meanwhile, for my 49ers, like, we really got to feed George Kittle more. We really got to feed Ricky Pearsall more. Like, you can't, it's inexcusable not targeting George Kittle more. Just twice in that game against Buffalo. Like, Brock Purdy, you gotta do better, man. You got, like, I don't know if it's, I take that back. Is it a Brock Purdy issue? Is it a Kyle Shanahan issue? Either way, either Brock Purdy has to feed the ball way more to Kittle, as well as Ricky Pearsall, or Kyle has to devise a much better game plan to get the ball to both of them more. Like, 2 targets to George Kittle and nothing out of it is inexcusable. And again, I'm very lenient to Ricky Pearsall because he hasn't had much like game time. Like, he missed half of the season with that issue back in August. So I'm letting him slide a little bit. So yeah, he didn't see the ball much at all in the last couple of weeks. So I would really like to see him fed in this game against the Bears. And then defensively, you got to get any kind of pressure on Caleb Williams. Whether they have Nick Bosa or not, that offensive line is honestly not that great for Chicago. So slowing down that Bears offense is going to be kind of key in what helps the 49ers get some kind of delusional win heading into a very short week, mind you. They're playing 2 games in 4 or 5 days, mind you. Yeah, and they got the Bears on Sunday, and then a very quick turnaround to somehow their second Thursday night game this season, and this time it's at home against another division rival, and this one's against the Rams. So a very important week for the 49ers if they want to somehow save their season. But as I said in the recap of the last game, you got a hashtag lose them all, 49ers, lose them all, if you want to really save your season. But anyway, yeah, this is a key game for not just the 49ers, but for the Bears when it comes to, I don't know, if you want to try to salvage your season too. But in the process of, seeing what you got out of your interim head coach, Thomas Brown, see if he's the right guy for you. If he's going to be your permanent head coach or if it'll be someone else, but that remains to be seen. So, yeah, an important game for both of these teams. The Bears trying to avoid another losing season, well, even though it's very dangerous close to it. And for the 49ers, if they want to keep their delusional division hopes alive, try to get that NFC West. But we shall see what one gives this coming Sunday as both teams get ready to play some red and gold Bears football. But let me know your thoughts on this coming game this Sunday in the comments below, and let's have a conversation about it. And yeah, it's going to be a game that's going to be had this Sunday afternoon. But anyway, until we recap this one, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports, including my San Francisco 49ers. And until I see you, when I see you in the next one, peace out.